Hi everybody, Dhaman Mehta here. Thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. I know it's been a while, I'm sorry. I just started a job, so I have a little bit of extra work now, and that's cutting into both my reading and recording time. So I just had to wait till the weekend so I can actually start recording these things. But let's dive in. So once again, for those of you that don't know, if you're here, I've read a lot of fan fiction, have a huge freaking favorites list, and decided to curate this list, reread all the stories, and see if they're still worth it. So let's dive in. We're starting in February of 2012 with The Lives Worth Saving by cywsaphyre. I don't even know how to pronounce this. PHYRE. Cywsaphyre, I guess. And this is a Naruto time travel story where Naruto travels back in time from a destroyed world to save the day. This time he travels back to his bell test, a couple days before that, but he stays in his older body. So now there's two Narutos in the past. We have the canon Naruto, and now this 26-year-old who's there to help fix the future. So I like this one a lot. It doesn't spend much time in the future, and his arrival and getting trust of people is also wrapped up pretty quickly, where he's just immediately goes to the Hokage and it's like, hey, I'm from the future. You should protect me and listen to what I have to say, and it just wraps it up, and it's like, okay. So there's no struggle to how am I gonna fit in or how am I gonna hide and anything of that. It's more just it just gets into the character relationships as well as just the actions that he's gonna do to save the future. And that keeps you interested because it keeps the flow moving in a pretty rapid pace, and it doesn't get bogged down or overwritten in areas. It also helps that Naruto doesn't have many deep monologues, and he doesn't really go deep into the pain or struggles he's feeling. We mainly get to see his pain and struggles based on how everybody else is seeing his behavior and inferring it from a secondhand perspective. The other POVs are also a nice. They add a change of pace, but also gain an insight into Naruto's character and his nature of making friends really fast. Sadly, it was never completed, and it ends before anything really interesting could pop off. Like how they were just about to go into a whole meeting with Cloud over a whole bunch of shit that was happening, and it was going to be really interesting, but that just never happened. But still, the character beats and drama here are more than enough to make me want to pull this story up again, and so it's going to stay on my list. Right, next is Sacrificial Second Chance by NaruAndHarrHaremFan, and it's another time travel story, this time Harry Potter. And it's another one that's incomplete, that doesn't even get through his first year, but it makes up for it with the fact that there's a huge amount of character drama and a lot of fun, flirty conversations. Basically, Harry here, like I said, there's a whole lot of war. He died during the war, comes back, and now he's in it's not pure time travel, because it's also slight dimension hopping in a sense, where there's different timeline stuff. Harry here is super playful and charming, and the moments where he's teasing the girls in the castle is honestly my favorite parts of the story, and or what will keep me in this list, as the rest of it is a mix of the story not progressing very quickly. I mean, this thing has over 200,000 words, and it doesn't even get through half of the first year. And also just another problem of a bunch of character drama seeming to have gotten over a little too fast to feel natural. Harry drops into basically the body of another Harry Potter who is really evil and psychotic and stuff, and and the rest of the family, who have very good reason to be skeptical and fearful of this guy, basically just start accepting him at the drop of a hat, a little too quickly to be natural. There's some points that get made of like maybe it's still there, but it still doesn't feel that that good. But still, the rest of it I did enjoy. It's not too disappointing, but like if the Playboy attitude and aspect and like the teasing parts were removed, I definitely would have knocked it off this list. But those are just so entertaining for me, especially because like it doesn't go into the pull on just like, you know, he's a 10-year-old or 11-year-old that just has sex with everybody. It's kept in the realm of just flirty conversations and just teasing and making them like making girls blush and stuff and just enjoying their shy behaviors, which I really did enjoy. And I felt like it was just it added to the fun atmosphere of this story. That is really what's going to keep it on my list. If you're not into that kind of stuff or you don't care and you want more about the drama, more like time travel, like powering up and drama stuff, you probably won't be too interested in here, especially because it's not complete. But I enjoyed it and it's going to stay on my list. All right, number 3 is Thoughts of Pudding 2012 by Brian64. It's 2012 because I think this was a remade story. Like he gave up on the first hand and tried to rewrite it. It's basically, it takes place after Harry's 5th year, and Harry basically just says something different to Luna, and so Luna and Harry ends up going on a trip with Luna to Sweden and a few other tag-alongs as he basically starts trying to become his own man and get out of Dumbledore's thumb. It's a slow story that doesn't really get anywhere. Like I think the timeline basically progresses like 2 weeks in 140k words, and that's not much. There's not a lot here. There's a lot here in terms of words, and actually action-wise, like there is a lot of events happening, but at the same time it feels like almost nothing happens. Mainly that comes down to the fact that it feels like nothing's changed throughout the whole course of the story, because outside of a relationship between Harry, Luna, and Hermione becoming a thing. Like there's a lot of talk about training, but like none of it's really shown, or again, not enough time has passed for it to see any real impact. There's a lot of talk about breaking away from Dumbledore and his influence, and yet basically every other chapter he shows up and they have a conversation and stuff. Like the whole reason for going away to Sweden was so that he'd be out of his influence, and then every other chapter again he's just coming back into England for one reason or another. And it's a lot, you know, like the relationship bits are interesting or drama, but it's not enough to make me want to come back to this tale. That's also incomplete, and it just seems to just jog in place throughout its entire length. I just found it to be dull, and it's not going to stay on my list. Next is more Harry Potter with Never a Memory by Ayumi Falacian, or whatever. And this takes place starting after the Department of Mysteries fight, again, end of 5th year. And basically Harry and his friends start unlocking memories from their past lives. And it just so happens that like most of them are basically involved with a certain really powerful electric company. Because this is a crossover between Harry Potter and Final Fantasy VII. I think there's a bit more. It's actually like the Final Fantasy universe in general, because I think one of them, I didn't read through the whole thing again, and I'm not sure if I ever did it, but like there was hints that one of them was either Squall or Cypher. I think Squall. But it's a story that just never grabbed my attention, even though it involves FF7 a lot. I didn't see anything bad about it, and it wasn't really boring. It just never got me invested. It brings back huge characters. Like Harry is actually Sephiroth in a past life, and he's remembering it at a weird pace. Hermione's Genesis, and she basically remembers her entire life. Ron gets revealed as Reno, and like a bunch of others show up all over the place. I think like Susan Bones is Yuffie stuff. Draco Malfoy is the one that I think might be Squall. There's like a whole bunch of people that just every other chapter is like a new person gets revealed as like a backstory or something like that. But it just wasn't interesting, and it also is incomplete. Didn't get very far. And also it's more like personality merges rather than full on character replacements. But if you want to give it a look based on the premise, I say give it a shot. But I just never got into this story, and so it's not going to stay on my list. All right, next I think it's number 5. I think is plot bunnies to go to a new home. Plot bunnies for free to a new home by Please Dial 123. And this is another dumping grounds for an author that is filled with ideas for stories, which many of these ideas are longer than many completed fics. Like, hell, even the first chapter alone idea that he has is like, I think 20 something thousand words. And they're super interesting. They go really in depth. Like, just the first idea is about, okay, like, they're not all like super crazy, like, but like the first idea was, okay, it's a Naruto fic where Naruto had found a friend when he was a little kid who was a tailor, and so he learned sewing and he wanted to be a tailor, and just how does that change? And it goes, like, it's not super in depth, but it goes through like his life from a kid to pass the wave mission, and I think even up to like, I think it gets to the tuning exams, I can't remember for sure, but like there's a lot of stuff that happens, and it goes into detail about how his life changes based on that, and there's a lot of different, it's a lot, and that's just one of his ideas, and that's one chapter, and there's all of them are like basically that long, like they're not almost that always that length, but they're real. A lot of these stories are like really fleshed out a lot more than many dumping grounds that I have on this list. So if you want to just see a big ass plethora of ideas that are pretty largely smattered with yaoi, this is definitely your bag. I didn't care. I'm not a huge yaoi guy. I'm nothing against that. I just don't. That's not my thing. But I still enjoyed a lot of these, just the ideas and how these goes. And like I said, they're really fleshed out, that it's not just ideas. You see a lot of where it goes, where they might as well be just unfinished fics in their own right that stood out. I really did enjoy these things, and it's going to stay on my list. Okay. Coming up to number 6, we have Sympathy by Durandal. And so again, it's another Haruhi story from Durandal. This one is basically a retread of the first few like chapters of Haruhi, but with our two main characters swapping like positions, where Haruhi is our new narrator and is not the special one and Kyon is, and it's all done in order to foster a better understanding between Haruhi and Kyon. There's a bit more to the overall premise, but it's basically that. It's straightforward. Like we have Haruhi as our narrator, so because like she just wishes Kyon could understand her position, and then so Kyon's like, okay, go live through the first days of high school as me instead, and basically does that. It's a bit interesting because we see Haruhi's inner thoughts, and we can compare them directly to Kyon's, and Haruhi's. Like, basically, she's much more selfish and self-centered. Like, it's nothing horrendous. I mean, I'm pretty sure all teenagers are self-centered and selfish to that point. I know I definitely had a lot of problems like that when I thought like that when I was in high school. The main issue for me, because like I said, the story is basically a retread of that, I just became very unsympathetic to Haruhi as the story went on. Like, granted, it kind of comes back around near the end, but during the middle part especially, I was just like, she's kind of a bitch, and I don't want to I don't see why I would like this character. And so I just didn't enjoy this as much as the other trips that I've had with Durandal. I still think the writing is good and stuff. It's just, personally, I just felt a little turned off by the character. But like I said, like, most characters are self-absorbed. Not everybody needs to be a paragon of virtue or like, perfection. And this is definitely an interesting take, and like I said, interesting to see from Haruhi, and seeing the whole setup and a bit of the character dynamics from a more selfish perspective. I do think it's good. I just don't think I want to come back to this myself, so it's not going to stay on my favorites list, though I do say to give it a look. Alright, and the last fic for this video is Naruto Ramen Days by Rathaniel. And this is a gamer style fic, something I'm sure we'll see a lot more of in this list later on, but not the gamer manhwa which is probably the more common one now. I think this was before. This is more just standard, like his life is a video game, not the gamer power, and so he is like, you know, the other kind of stuff. The biggest difference between this and almost every other gamer fic that I can recall is that the main character spends his points like an idiot. And he should be, because Naruto is an idiot, especially early on. And this one, like, he didn't even get up to the, I think he didn't get past the Chunin exam, so he just kept going over and over. And like an idiot, he's just like, I'm gonna put all my points into ninjutsu because ninjutsus are awesome, and just do that. And like, he starts using his moves without knowing what's going on, all that stuff. Like, it fits realistic. It's more realistic use of thing, whereas opposed to like every other fic is just like, oh, hey, I have the gamer power. Okay, how do I min max this? Because even though I have no idea, I just magically know now that I can do anything. I'm super smart. And like, you know, that's the one thing that stands it out. And the actual character and mechanics are pretty interesting. We're given basically a full volume of content, or like a full season of an anime. Like, it gets through from his starting to the Chunin exams and a little bit after that. Like, we basically get from the start to like his Genin exam till about the Sasuke retrieval arc. And it also wraps up as a volume of the story, where the author was like, okay, here's volume 1, now we're going to start writing volume 2, which never happened, but we have volume 1 of stuff. It actually feels a lot like if this was Shenmue, like we just got Shenmue 1, and Shenmue 2 and 3 don't exist, but we have Shenmue 1. So that's basically, story-wise, that's what we got to go off of. Where we've got the outline of like, okay, there's the boss, we're going to go on a journey to get him, and it just never starts. Aside from the novelty I mentioned of like the character being an idiot and spending it that way, there isn't really anything amazing about this story that I would love to come back to. It's fine enough when I was reading, but nothing really sticks out as like an amazing moment or like some interesting section that I really want to come back and see. And also, like, when I was reading it, nothing really spurred me on. Like, as I was reading, like, oh, wait, I remember, yeah, this is what's going to happen, because that's the first time. It's like, nothing stayed in my head. And yes, there are stories that I've completely forgotten about that are on this list, but usually when I read back, if they leave a good impact, like, I'll be like, oh, wait, now I remember why I put this on this list, or why I was there. This one, I think I just put it on because it was a gamer-type Naruto fic, and I like those things, or at least I did at the time, but, like, this one, it's a satisfactory first act that's missing the rest of the story, and again, there's no moments that stick out in my head as interesting, or like things that I would really remember, or like I want to read that again. It's not going to stay on my list. So there we go. That is it for this video. Fan fiction status time. I have now read 675 stories, and 333 of them are staying on my list. Alright, so again, sorry this took so long. I've read a couple. I think I've read only like 2 or 3. So I've read like 3 for the next video. Hopefully I'll try to record it next weekend. Hopefully if I can get these stories read by this point, and try to figure it out. I just, because of this now, if I miss a weekend, I like basically have to wait till next weekend to start recording, because I'm working so much and still streaming and other stuff. But yeah, like I said, like always, links to the stories are in the description, so please feel free to give them a look, read them for yourselves, or if anything interested you. And like the video if you like this, comment if you think my taste is terrible, and subscribe if you want to get notified when these videos come out, or when I put out my streaming VODs when they come out. It's very, very hit or miss, so it's like not a schedule that comes out at a certain time. So if you want to see these, you really should just subscribe. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.